my shirt, I think, sending a moire pattern across the airwaves. Real funky moire thing going on with the lines.
Yeah. Well, have you had any Agile experiences this last week that are of interest? We have 5 people already joining us. Welcome, everybody.
Awesome.
Say hi to us in the chat window if you get a chance. We'll be starting here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think a lot's going on lately. I'm just trying to find ways I can now to turn situations into, I think Lisa Atkins put it out there, the hub and spoke thing.
Yeah.
And I was going to go out on her forum there, that Agile coaching forum, and start dissecting some of these, because they're powerful, they're short statements, and there's like longer discussions that could be had with those, and that hub and spoke thing is kind of cool. So what I'm trying to do now is take and turn what would normally be me or at a hub or an epicenter and get me out of that and turn myself into a spoke or even the outskirt of the wheel. So been doing that by not making demands, like we'll set up meetings or communications or touch points.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to make more attendees optional.
Yeah.
So they don't feel mandatorily committed by what we're doing, but they should be able to start having coaching moments with myself or another coach or another manager even, where, hey, what value do you think that meeting is going to bring to you? You're not mandatory there, but what value can you offer, and what value can that give you back?
Yep.
You know, so those are kind of the things that I've been trying to change.
Yeah. I've been a little bit, since she said that, I've been a little bit aware and frustrated, I would say, of the way that the team almost naturally sometimes reports, like in a stand-up or even in sprint planning, will kind of report and turn to me, and just aware it's like that, they're talking about something and they turn and talk to me, and then they talk about something else and they turn and talk to me, and I'm trying to figure out how to become that silent observer, and that presence, that coaching presence that says, I'm here if you need me, but I'm not here to enable you to get through this. You can get through this on your own. I'm here if you need me and need some backup or need some support. And so I think that, that's a tricky balance to strike, because it's very easy when we're in coaching mode, to take control of a meeting or to guide it. But I had a really exciting experience this last week. So I've been driving a stand-up using a smartboard, and one of the days I was out, one of the team members had to step in for me and set up the smartboard and drive the meeting. And so I came back the next day, and I was actually a little bit late, because as I rounded the corner, that person was already plugging their laptop in, and they saw me coming, and they went, oh, here, no, I'll let you drive it. And I immediately stopped them and said, no, if you want to drive it, please, you drive it. I want you to do that. So I've been spending the last couple of days just observing and not having to drive all the ins and outs of that particular team, and that's been awesome. I've loved that, being able to sit back and observe and not getting the reporting done to me, right? Like them saying, well, Isaac, here's what I've done, blah, 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 but having them engage with each other. It's been way more satisfying than when, the meeting sometimes can revolve around us as coaches, and we want to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think, it's that perspective of driving performance versus managing performance.
Yep.
And a lot of times they observe our role as managers of performance. Like, well, what do you expect me to do, as opposed to what do you know or think you're capable of in that situation, So
yeah, definitely.
Cool stuff. Well, you want to, we have a short crew on.
Yes.
If you want to get started, we can get started. It's 4:05 if others join. this is a good inspect adapt thing. If this is becoming a short list, whoever we do have on, from caller user 3, caller user 4, Greg Vickers, you know, let's see if we can't promote this a little bit more and make this bigger, because we definitely want to make it have value to people. So.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, so I'll just kick off here with just our reminder of our kind of what it is that we're doing, why we're even here. You know, being a group of people committed to living out our Agile journey to the fullest, right? And for me, that means that we live it out in a way that we're connected. I don't think an Agilist can truly be an Agilist unless they're pursuing continual improvement, continuous improvement. And for me, that means getting involved with people who are smarter than I am, people who know stuff I don't know, and learning from their mistakes. So one of the quotes I'll just share with everybody, my dad always told me growing up, a wise man learns from his own mistakes, a wiser man still the mistakes of others. So for me, when I think about trying to continually improve, it makes me think I want a community. So that's what this group's about for us. We're dedicated to finding highly focused topics that help evaluate the development of each of our Agile coaching journeys. We're strictly focused on Agile coaching. We're interested in transparency, inspection, and adaptation, those core foundational pillars. And then our goal is to find topics that Agile coaches tend to be routinely challenged with and open up questions, answers, and discussions that can help provide new perspective to these difficult scenarios. Today being an exciting case of that, because we're not just saying, hey, we've got a prepared topic and we're going to talk for 20 minutes and then have some Q&A afterwards. We're actually test driving a very engaging format where we are going to be basically talking through questions that are raised by people on the call. So it's going to be a little different. Everyone will please bear with us as we learn to adapt to these things. I do want to make an announcement here that, you know, this group isn't just me and Jeff. This is Agilists at large. So we hope that you get value from this and that you help us create value. We don't think we're the smartest people in the world. We're just people who said, we'll do it, and let's put a date on the calendar and see what happens. So we need your feedback and your encouragement for new ideas. If you're willing to be a speaker, we'll talk about it at the end. We need your input. We need you to be a part of this journey with us so it's not just us, and that we can keep driving value into these meetings. And so before I kick it over to Jeff, who's going to facilitate our meeting today, I did want to share one thought with you, just to really pique your interest or your thinking. You're the average of 5 people that you spend the most time with. Jim Rohn, go back to my comments earlier on community. To me, this tells me I need to be really intentional about people I'm spending my time around. You know, I'm looking to be a driver of change to try to help agility flow through the organization and ultimately improve the organization. But it really matters who I spend my time around, and I need to be intentional with that. I need to seek out mentors, people who can coach me, and friends like Jeff who can help me on my journey and on my path. So I encourage you to think about the people that you're around and make sure they're lining up with your goals so that they're always moving in the same direction. So that being said, I'm going to kick over. This will be the slide that we have up for the rest of the time here. Let Jeff kind of kick us into the setting, and I'll jump in as needed for tech support, but why don't you kick us off there, Jeff?
Yeah, so this is the agenda. We give 5 minutes for everybody to join the call, and right now I'm going to run everyone through an agenda review, which is basically we're going to review how this works, why it works, the ground rules for this. We're going to take in some topic submissions, and it says please message Isaac directly, but we're just going to use the chat window. There's only a couple of us, and I'll preface, I'm not upset at the fact that there's a couple of us. This kind of eases the tension a little bit because we could actually throw more topics out and we could have more open discussion, and this is a better test environment for us to launch bigger and better efforts of this in the future, so that's great. We vote on the topics. However, we've decided we want to give that time back to talk about the topics. So we're going to tee the topics up in the order that they come in from top to bottom. And if there's any topics we don't seem to get to, we'll table that for another future Agile Lean Coffee session, and we'll pick right up with that. And the way it works is it's 5 minutes per topic. And when we approach that 5 minutes, which Isaac's going to help us with using an egg timer. We're going to have the eggtimer.com or this website. It's really awesome. And it'll go 5 minutes. And when we get probably to 30 seconds left mark, you know, Isaac will throw out a vote, help moderate, and we'll see, does anyone want to continue, yes or no? And being as though there's 5 of us, or maybe 4 of us, I don't even know, really. We'll just take a democratic vote. Majority wins, and we'll extend it for 2 minutes. And then at the end of that 2 minutes, it's a hard bookend cutoff. And then we'll close us out. Being as though it's a smaller group, this even may move a little bit quicker, and you may even get more of your time back today, which is another beautiful thing. Everybody's time's valuable. So with that, I'm going to move into the agenda review. And basically what this is it's an open forum to share best practices surrounding and pertaining to Agile coaching. We made this about Agile coaching. And if you're with us, we want you to get value out of that. And that value is found in learning about others' unique journeys, learning about others' perspectives, and other best practices people put in place. Everything Agile, and even if it's coaching and it doesn't relate to Agile, a lot of times that's valuable. So this forum's meant to provide an open discussion amongst Agile coaches in the Agile community. I see we only have a few people here, and what I want to do real quick before we get into some basic ground rules is we want to do a tech check, and I'd like Isaac to unmute everyone real quick, and we just want to make sure, A, you guys could hear us, and B, we could hear you so we could facilitate an open discussion.
Yep, everybody should be unmuted now. So.
Cool. Greg, are you there?
Hi.
Who is that we have with us?
Heidi.
Oh, welcome, Heidi.
Thank you.
Who else
do we have out there? They might be away.
Well, I see Greg's name. I didn't know if they were in a room, they're on mute. Is there any chat going on?
Nope.
Greg, can you hear us?
I hear a bleep. Did someone just IM you, or was that me?
Hey, this is Greg. Can you hear me now?
He's IMing me still.
Oh, okay. I hear Greg there.
Cool.
So I'm actually in the scrum room, so I'm going to try to stay muted most of this.
Oh, okay. You weren't expecting a 2-3-way conversation.
No, I was not. Correct.
Surprise! Okay, cool. Well, now that we have that tech check, I'll just throw it out. Isaac and I provided just a couple quick ground rules, and thanks Heidi and Greg both for joining us. We're going to really make a more grassroots effort and an attempt to get more people. We've just been using the Sabre WebEx. We found that maybe it works better when we used Eventbrite and really pushed it out there on social media, on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and all those great channels. So anyway, I'll get into the 3 quick ground rules that Isaac and I just threw together to get us started. One is the Vegas rules, and everyone knows that. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And we just want that, level of confidentiality that if you have something that you want to tell us, whether we know the people or not or the situation or not, that it stays with us. So it just gives that comfort and that safety feeling. Planet Fitness rules, which is they advertise that it's a judgment-free zone, pick things up and put things down, It's, they had a whole thing on judgment-free, and everybody has a perspective or an opinion, and we're not really here to critique or debate someone's approach as much as maybe to offer suggestions if they're stuck with a problem, or even to reap a best practice and try to put it in play in our own environment. And then conflict resolution in this format, Lisa Atkins used this in a moderated call that we had, and that, let's just say, for instance, Greg and Heidi happened to chime in at the same time. You would say your first name, Greg or Heidi, and whoever says their first name first would then get the floor, and the other person would kindly yield. And if it was Greg, then Heidi would say, well, go ahead, Greg, take the floor. And then Greg would yield to Heidi when his speaking was up. So those were the first three. Is there any other ground rules that Heidi or Greg or Isaac would like to add to keep the session going, safety, and conversation going?
Not from my end. I'm good.
Sounds good to me too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we did the tech check. We got some ground rules, and we know who's here. So, like Isaac said, and I was mentioning, this is an open session, and we're going to just throw some topics out there, and then just open up general discussion about those topics. So right now, if you just want to use the chat box and chat a topic, Isaac could gather the topics, and we'll start from the top and work our way down.
Yep, and I'll just stay there. So I'm going to start a clock for us. That's a 2-minute timer, and this 2-minute timer is going to help us keep on focus and on track. So what we'll do is, for 2 minutes, think about something that you want to talk about, or in a lean format, question you have, an area you'd like to explore, something you'd like to dig into a little bit more, and then send them via the chat. What I'm going to do is put them into a poll, and I saw that a few people were able to access the poll, and then we're just going to vote on these. Which ones seem interesting, which one do we want to talk about, and we'll take those for discussion. So I'm going to make a poll up as they come in, so topics for discussion, and we will vote on them here as the timer collapses. So if you can't chat or you can't see the chat window, let us know. Hopefully you can see the polling window, because that's the one we'll be voting on. So I'm going to start entering these in as they go, and leave it to Jeff there as we count this down for 1 minute and 10 seconds now. And Jeff, please add some of your own too. We'll go ahead and throw in anything that comes to mind.
I just threw one out there already to get us started. I added a second one that I brought up earlier.
Excellent. I like that second one. Okay, so let me throw that last minute slider in there, and then that's great. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. So I'm going to give us a little bit of time to look these over. And what it is, it's a multiple choice. I'm going to open up the poll. So look at those, click on the ones that are of interest to you, and then hit submit. And we'll let everybody look through those, and we'll rank order them and go through them. If there's any ties, we're going to let Jeff be the tiebreaker as the moderator to this call. He gets to choose what we talk about. Any that we don't get to, again, we can manage those in a backlog so that we have time. We have time to get through them.
I'm not sure what hub and spoke is.
Oh, you want to add some color to that there, Jeff?
Yeah, so just to add some color to it, the world-renowned Agile coach herself, Lisa Atkins, she sends out an inspiration, Agile coaching inspiration, and she refers to coaches not necessarily taking the role of the hub of a wheel. So if you think of a wheel and the hubcap being the center, the center piece, and then the spokes going out are the team members or people from the organization, and you think about that connection of discussion where they kind of look inward towards the hub for a question or an answer or some sort of facilitation, and then it bounces back to the outskirts of the wheel, and instead of that conversation being more like a spider web and going everywhere, it comes right back to the hub. So it starts to form spokes, like the spokes of a wheel, that chain of communication. And it's, something interesting to talk about.
Okay. All right. So looks like we've got one more of the polls in progress. We're going to wait for that one to finish, and then I'll close it and we'll share the results. Looks like you might have some tie breaking to do, depending on what the votes come through for this last one. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Give it a couple more seconds here. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to close the poll and share the results with everybody. We should be able to see it. You got three clear winners there.
Okay. So I think the one, and I tend to go with ones that aren't necessarily mine, because I'd rather hear from everyone else than me drive that conversation. So I'd say we just start with how to get team members to know you trust them. I think that's what that was. Whose topic was that?
Yeah, so this is Greg. That was my topic. Unfortunately, I'm kind of sitting in the middle of the team room and not quite prepared to, I guess, have some of that discussion.
We can take it from there. We can take it and run with it, Greg. We don't want to put you in an awkward spot. Yeah, no problem.
I'll be better prepared next time. Yeah, but I think just to kind of tee that up a little bit, I mean, part of the discussion would be is how do you get each of the team members to understand trust, and how do you convince them or portray the trust in them so that they can be more empowered to go and do their own, runway to their task. Sometimes there's a holding back of doing something because either they don't know they're trusted or they're not thinking that what they're going to do is trusted.
That's interesting. Cool. So, Heidi, are you in a position to give feedback on that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, from my perspective, I try to encourage the teams to provide like open and honest feedback. So I think it establishes trust both ways. And I have some teams, let's say in India, who are pretty reticent to speak up. And I try to tell them, for example, we're on an Agile journey, but the company is also on their Agile journey. So even high-performing teams, let's say they don't want to speak up in a retrospective, so I tell them even high-performing teams have things to talk about. And it's over time, I think, when they see how you interact with them. I don't think trust comes on the very first day, both ways, but I think it can be gained over time. But some of those things are just how you choose to interact with the team and let them know that they're heard as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to say this is a great topic because I'm working with a team, a new team, and what I experienced with the new team was a playbook out of Lencioni's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and so that spurred me to go back and reread that. And what fascinated me is the core thing that you got to start a high-performing team with is trust, right? And trust ultimately will lead you to a point of being able to have healthy conflict, but without trust for each other and ultimately trust in the environment, right, that the environment's stable, you start having some turf defending, conflicts go unsaid. Basically, you lose the transparency that it takes to be able to have a team have those tough discussions and inspect and adapt. And so with that team, my focus was, man, we got to get this trust level up. Well, right off the bat, we experienced a loss of a resource. Someone just had to step away from the project. That being the case, the rest of the team started kind of wondering, well, did that person really leave because they had a personal thing they wanted to go after? Were they cut and that was the story that was told to us? There was a lot of questioning, and fear began to kind of rule the team. And any team that's driven or impacted by fear, I don't think can have trust. So I think tying into this trust question, how do you relieve fear in a team? and it kind of depends on what it is that could be causing them concern, and that comes from knowing the team. Those are my thoughts.
So can I ask you this, Isaac? Can you tee that question up for a future session? How do you ease or relieve fear in a team? Because I think that's a good spin-off to this conversation. And I guess I'm more curious because I have some ideas, and I know Greg's in a very awkward position right now. Maybe he could chat it to us. Is there a specific, because sometimes this trust revolves around a specific scenario, right? Maybe it's a personality conflict or a personal conflict, right, between two members, and that could be almost like cancerous to a team where a lot of trust is lost. Or maybe it's a team that's conspired conversely against the organization going, they don't trust us. And it's like a grassroots movement. Like Lisa Atkins said, a bundle of sticks is harder to break. So I'm wondering if there's a more concrete example to help you get to the root of this question.
Yeah, there is some things I could share, but probably at a different time. But definitely, I think the idea of taking this offline and maybe as a separate topic in a future discussion would really be good. I think it'd be helpful. I do appreciate the discussion so far. But yeah, there is some specific things, I guess, centered around the topic that I was looking or could share at a different time.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've been in a very turbulent situation and had to do with my newspaper days. So, you know, that's why I asked for more specific examples, because I've seen a couple different ways where trust was lost.
All right, so we're out of time for that first 5-minute segment. Do we want to add 2 more minutes and go a little bit further on this? Maybe get you to tell that story, and maybe through us talking about it, Greg can get some value out of it, or do we want to move to the next topic? So, Jeff, that's your space there.
Well, normally we would vote on this, but to honor Greg and just out of, I like the fear part. I think that's a good future topic. But I think we definitely tee this one up and come back when Greg could be a little bit more transparent, and maybe we could help him out as a coaching community, because I think that's pretty awesome and pretty powerful to be able to have somebody that's in a predicament that they're bringing up a real scenario and to give somebody, you know, to specifics a few different angles of going at that scenario, and so it's valuable.
Cool. Okay. Then we can tee up the next topic, and I've got that jotted down, so I'll make a list of potential future topics, and we can move on to the next one.
Are you good with that, Heidi?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I definitely like your feedback on that. That's pretty awesome.
Go ahead, Jeff. Do you want to kick up the next one? I'll just make a list here so everybody can see what I'm recording.
Yeah, sure. So the next one, and the next one down, is how does your org or business use coaches, whether it be for performance or teaming or enterprise, or how do they view them, or do they even use the coaching role at all? And I'll tee this one up a little bit. As I'm really digging into this and thinking about Agile in a different way, what I'm seeing is that corporate America is having a real tough time keeping up with process trends, and coaching is on the cutting edge of modern day process trends. I think people that are learning about coaching are going to be ahead of the curve. For instance, a Scrum Master role, not to knock that role because I'm that role myself, I think is becoming a little less valuable than what a coaching role is in this world, because a lot of Agilists are gravitating towards a hybrid approach. And with that being said, coaching is more valuable there because a Scrum Master is kind of what you would call like a one-trick pony in the world of Agile. So that's kind of where I go with it, is what's your org's perspective on that, or your business's perspective on that?
Well, I can jump in here. So our org, or our company, has a realm of coaches, And those coaches, while they're encouraged to be the drivers of Agile throughout the company, what actually we've discovered through some experiences that it can turn into, it can sometimes be really Scrum-centric, which isn't saying Scrum is a problem, but just go back to what you were saying, Jeff, Scrum Master, sometimes when you really just say it's Scrum or nothing without looking at the environment variables, the situation, where the team is at, that can be a limiting factor. And so I would say the coaching role in our organization is really to drive agility and to drive a mindset shift in agility through the organization. And what that reminds me of is this last week I was able to actually attend a Scrum Master training, which was good. It was good to be reminded of the basics. But there were so many questions that people in the class had, well, we can't do that here because X, or, well, I've had a problem with this because Y. Not to say those problems don't need to be addressed, but sometimes you're stuck inside the environment you're stuck inside. And if you can help the team pursue agility, even in the midst of not being able to fully implement Scrum because you have other tools and you're acting as a coach, I think that does make you more valuable in helping the company see what they're trying to get from the Agile movement and ultimately why they're going with Scrum. So one more thing, there's a really great speech that was recommended to us by that Scrum Master training course, and it was how to make any organization agile. And I believe it was on, I'll have to look it up, and I'll do that here in a second. But it basically was a consortium of, they went and looked at a whole bunch of companies and said, how do these companies best move agile? And they found trends, and it was very, very fascinating how it's more generic. Agility is more generic. It's a mindset shift instead of a process, do A, B, C, D shift. And if you can change the mindset, you can change the processes, and you can see the company get the benefits of agility. But it's a mindset shift is what they ultimately said.
Cool. Great. So I think I might be in a unique position as far as this question, how does your business use coaches, or value what a coach role is? So I'm ending a short-term contract right now with a company that I do not think that they value the coach role. And from day one, we continually had to show value. So it was all about showing value from day one. So we expressed the concern that we would focus on things that would force us to show value rather than just doing our job if they can, continue to do that. So we had to figure out a way to do our best job in an environment that didn't really believe in coaches and didn't really believe in the value that we provided. So we found some outcomes that were important around transparency, and that involved working with Scrum Masters in JIRA. So we actually did, I think we did show our value, but the question still is there, right? As far as a Scrum Master being a one-trick pony, I've met lots of Scrum Masters who are doing Kanban, and they still call them a Scrum Master, but I guess that is the perception out there. So, they might have migrated, right? And I know we only have a few seconds left, but that was actually the topic of a talk I gave earlier this week, which is Scrum, Kanban, or Scrumban, which is right for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
that's cool, Heidi. I seriously didn't mean, like I said, my title's Scrum Master, and I wasn't knocking the value as much as if you really think about what you call that title, it paints it into that corner, right? Like, you're a Scrum Master. Okay, so all you know is Scrum. And I really think it should revolutionize into or evolve into something more Agile-centric where, and you probably would agree, most Scrum Masters do start learning other Agile concepts, whether it be Lean or, Kanban, Scrumban, Lean, I mean, the hybridization, and some are even PMPs. They know waterfall, so, it's kind of, cut them loose, cut the shackles loose. Let's see what they could do.
So we're at the end of, I would love to keep talking on this. So I'd like to recommend we go for 2 more minutes on this topic. This is a good topic. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Yeah.
Great, let's do it. I like it.
So when I was interviewing, and I was a Scrum Master, and I was interviewing for an Agile coach role, she said to me, gosh, from what you're telling me, I wish your title had been team coach. And so I told her every Scrum Master is really a coach at the same time.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's really good.
So it's funny, you mentioned, and that's what I was getting to, was the culture and the viewpoint of a business of the coaching role. And you said they didn't really believe in it, and they still weren't sold on it. And I'm really trying to put my finger, like, and I'm sure you guys have watched this, that Marcus Lemonis, The Prophet, where he talks, this is a very successful businessman that went from rags to riches, grew up with his family in the old auto sale business, and the cornerstones of everything this guy does is a model for what a lot of successful people are, and they believe in the people and the product and the process. And it's that observation that I have, that thing, like you said, well, they don't believe in that. I can never seem to put my thumb on the pulse of why are companies not believing in the process or believing in that value that a coach would bring to performance of that process. It's tough.
Yeah. I love what you said there earlier on a coach leading the process trends. I mean, that's really what I envision my role as, and maybe I see myself more as a coach, in that I'm there with the mindset of I want the best working environment for the people who are working, and I want simultaneously the best work output for the company. That being the case, I believe that there is something we can do differently than the way we're doing it today to get improved results, both for the team and for the company. And so that being the case, my pursuit then, when I come in and I work with teams and I try to talk to the organizational structure, my pursuit is, how do I drive that change? How do I help us move from A to B? How do I infuse things that are going to make this whole process better into the teams and into the company? And that's really the role of a coach, right? A coach comes along and says, I'm going to see where you're at, and I'm going to find things that I have from my vast experience or maybe mid-level experience, different tools on my tool belt that I can inject in here to help you get the maximum experience possible through this engagement. And that's really what I see my role as, is being a changer.
So we hit that time box, and it's a cool segue, because I think exactly where you're going with this leads to the next topic, which is, how do you, probably meaning as a coach, I don't know, I didn't write this one, help drive Agile change through your entire org? This one's awesome.
Yeah. And so I'll kick that one off, because you're right, it came from me, and it ties back into my challenge. Like right now, I love working with teams, and I like that I can go in and say, hey guys, I'm your Scrum Master, I'm here to serve you, let me show you some things we can get better. Teams are really receptive to that. Nobody says, no, I don't like getting better, I want to just stay in my own way. So I like driving that change. The place where I'm having difficulty and I'm encountering more political barriers, distrust, back to Greg's question, challenges, is in getting the thinking to change. And after watching that, how to make any organization, or how to make the whole organization agile, and I put the link to that video in the chat window, so I highly encourage you to watch it.
Oh, cool.
My focus has been, how do I help change the mindset? And I even said in a stand-up today, I was challenged on, I'm using a particular tool one way, and I've had 2 people come to me and say, you shouldn't be using that tool that way. Everyone's using that tool this way. And I said to them, I can use the tool any way that you want me to use it, but the problems that we're having aren't going to be solved by switching tools or changing the behavior with the tools. The problems we're having are a mindset problem about how we see and assign resources. And until that mindset changes, we're not going to be able to see the benefits of using any tool, right? We're going to keep doing the bad things we're doing, but using a cool tool to help facilitate it. So I'd love anybody's input on ways that you can help push changes, primarily push them up, not so much to the team. How do you drive agility into the organization?
That's a really tough one, and it's the reason why the Scrum Alliance and the Center for Agile Leadership had this new certification, because they realized this barrier. Unfortunately, no leaders are going to the certified Agile leadership training who really need it. But one thing that I did in a lot of organizations that encountered challenges like command and control, and they really didn't, for example, I worked one place where people were reported to the CIO for talking too much, even if it was work-related. So I said, if you want good software, you have to, like, we're going to keep talking, so I'm so sorry. But I realized, you know, maybe Scrum isn't quite the right fit right there at that point in time. There were other things in that organization that led me down this path, but I ended up putting in like a Scrum-bound system. And that's the beauty of some Kanban system, and that's why David Anderson started this, because if you've ever listened to his videos and read his books, he instituted Kanban to make small changes, and with small changes, you can garner trust in the organization on the way up, let's say, transparency, commitment to goals. And so the best way I've been able to introduce change has been to start with, okay, you say we're doing Scrum, let's do a Scrum-bound system, and let's show you some time here, let's give some transparency into the process. Oh gosh, we're all backed up here, so let's, it appears that we need more QA, so we're not really losers, it's the fact that we don't have QA. So people are willing to listen to conversations when you have evidence of an issue, but Scrum doesn't always provide answers to that problem, and so I've been able to really make a lot of inroads with introducing Kanban in organizations that aren't ready for true agility. And of course, you know, I think that Kanban is agile in Lean, but that's what I recommend, and that's kind of what I recommended in my talk. And so every place is so different. You can't make a generalized statement about it, but I found that Kanban works really well to introduce trust.
Yeah, there it is. That's that thing. And I don't even necessarily, I mean, you hit on another thing. To rip a quote out of what you just said is the small changes build that trust. It's finding those small wins or those small changes. That's pretty impactful.
Right.
I truly, wholeheartedly believe in that. Like, find those small wins. And, you know, I went to the Agile Transformation Summit last year in Fort Lauderdale, and I took a part of the way that I built trust and made change in our organization is I was able to convince them to allow me to bring a bunch of developers and a bunch of QA with me to this Agile Transformation Summit and let them listen to some of these speakers and let them get some of this information and hear some of this evangelism. They were sold. We sat down to have lunch, and they looked at me, and they said, you know the people that need to be here? And I was like, who? And they go, our VPs, our execs, our SVPs. They need to hear this. This is like the truth. This is the truth fountain. And I couldn't agree more. I said, you know, those are the ones that are always like, we don't have time for that. But yet they were right. Those people need to understand what this is all about.
Yep. Yep. So we're at the end of that 5 minutes. Should we go another 2 minutes on this topic?
I'm fine with that.
I'm good doing that, too. Okay. Heidi, is that all right? Okay, cool. We'll go 2 more minutes on this.
Yeah. It was kind of cool, you know, to hear that. And just one thing that I do in particular and a best practice that I have is I talk to lots of people around the organization. I branch spread off of my own teams, even if I'm not at an enterprise level, and find different ways, whether it's on Yammer or whether I hook up with somebody on LinkedIn that's in my own company, and constantly attack or push an agenda or evangelize an Agile topic in a certain way to get somebody on board that can align up with me and go, let's give it a try, or what do we got to do to put this in place, or someone to believe in that vision and believe in the mission. And when you have that captivated audience, then you think, who can we get on board with this next? And how do we get this inside of our HR? How do we get this in front of somebody that's a change facilitator or somebody that's in charge of making a big decision in our company? And I always started by planting seeds and finding people that could get on board.
That's great advice, and I'm encouraged to hear that, because one of the steps I took out of frustration at the end of last week of, man, it's not going the direction I want it to go, I reached out to a gentleman who is responsible for Agile transformation here. I heard him give a talk on agility. He believes in it, believes in driving it. And then another manager here that we'd had several talks about agility. We connected on it and what direction the company needed to move. I reached out to both of them and said, hey, can we set up a mentoring time or coaching time where we just sit down and talk, and you help me from your standpoint see what kind of behaviors and things I can do from my area to help move this idea forward. So yeah, reaching out and networking and getting allies, I think that's a great place for anyone to start with that effort.
Cool.
Well, we're at the end of that time box too. Time is just flying. I love it.
So I think we could probably just do a real brief session, and Heidi was curious about the hub and the spoke thing, and Lisa Atkins put that out there, and I actually am curious to get, you know, some feedback on this real quick before we adjourn. One of the things that I thought about, and that's great in the positions we're in, and I agree with you guys, we really need to drive a mindset change and get people to think, what are the Agile principles and values? Are we honoring and respecting those? Because that's the culture, that's the movement. It's not necessarily the process in general. However, the hub and the spoke, the value of old project management, the value of the Scrum Master level, and Heidi kind of said the Scrum Master even should vision themselves as the coach, but a lot of that value can sometimes be devalued when the organization goes, like let's say I pull myself out of the center, I'm not the hub anymore, and I start getting people to think on their own or find new ways to approach problems and talk amongst each other. I think the thing that our community tends to think about or worry about is, do I work myself out of a job when I'm not in that hub position that I'm used to being in? And I think that's the scariest part for somebody that's used to being a project manager, or used to being in the center of things as a Scrum Master, and then you become a coach and you really start making other people think on their own, or other people understand, wow, I could do this. What's your thoughts on the potential of working your way out of a position maybe? Or, I don't know, I'm kind of perplexed with this.
Right, so it's Heidi. I love this topic. I've never been out of work in all the years that I've been working, and not that I've always been an Agile coach, but no one is ever going to be perfect. And it's like I've managed projects, I've been a Scrum Master, I've been a technical writer. And, for example, when I was a technical writer, it's like, oh, well, when we're done with this project, we won't need you anymore. But that never was the case. And so people forget that people are also fallible and they won't be perfect. You'll get new people coming onto the teams. You'll have teams changing around. You'll have new organizations. And so I think the value of a coach is having various experiences and being able to provide back to the community. So I'm not worried about it.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think the key is, it's like in leadership, you know, a great leader is ultimately somebody who can develop and create a system that's self-sustaining. That's valuable, right? If you can be the type of Scrum Master to create a team that is so knowledgeable that they can drive most of the stuff themselves, and you're only there helping them kind of get that continuous improvement value, but they are basically a team made up of Scrum Masters, I think you've done an exceptional job, and any company would be crazy to pass on a Scrum Master with that kind of talent. I mean, that's talent. Not only have you changed the thinking of that team, you've created internal momentum. And any person who can change a mindset of a group of people and create internal momentum and let them go to run without that person there, that's like the person who's a serial entrepreneur who can start a business that will run without them and then can go start another business. That's a rare and insanely valuable talent that I think any leader would be foolish to overlook, someone with that kind of skill set. So that fear, I mean, I understand the fear because it's like, well, they won't need me. But the reality is if they don't need you, boy, the business needs you more than ever because there's 100 more teams just like that waiting for someone to come along and get them going with some internal momentum.
Man, if only the power of that wasn't overlooked. That was good, man. That's good.
Yeah. It's the concept of like, and I believe it came from, I think it's Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's the concept of the flywheel, right? And when a train is starting, that first revolution is the hardest revolution. But as it goes, each revolution of the wheel gets easier and easier and easier. And eventually, when you've got that 100 coal car long train moving, it takes very, very little if it's done right because the momentum of that train's already going. It just takes a tiny tap now and then, and nothing's going to slow that train down for anything. So it's that concept of that flywheel and momentum, and that's powerful, man. That is powerful.
Yeah, boy, that's inspirational right there because, you know, I wish we had a few people that were on the call that are in like I've worked with a few people that felt their value was in being the hub of everything that went on. Like, but that's a great way to make them think differently about that's not really the value we need. Like the value we need are self-starters that are almost entrepreneurial that get a business or a team or a process moving so well that it's almost self-sustained. That's awesome.
Well, as we're coming up to 30 seconds, we're into the kind of red zone for closing out the meeting. So why don't we real quick review, I want to real fast review the notes that I took of future topics, make sure that I didn't drop any. So how to get team members to know that you trust them. That's a great conversation. I'd love to talk about that. How to ease fear in a team. Does your business audit process and or coaching value? Fighting matrixing inside of an org as a cause of WIP. Optional meetings. Kanban and Scrum, and the value of traditional project management. Those are just some that either came through chat or that came to my mind as we were talking. Are there any other topics that we just want to throw in here to include in these real quick? And then I'll save this for our next Lean Coffee session as a Kickstarter. Nope? Cool.
No.
Okay. Good. Then Jeff, I'll turn it back over to you to bring us on home.
Okay, cool. You got it. So, you know, Heidi and Greg in particular, I really want to thank you guys. And although it was rather small, I actually find these sessions to be a little bit more intimate because we all really got to share some personal stories, and I was kind of enlightened, and it kind of makes the session a little bit better than if we were to have 20 or 30 people actually, because sometimes that could be hard to facilitate or manage. So thanks for attending, and we're going to do this again. We're not really sure the format or who the speaker would be. We do seek speakers out. If you got a really cool topic of, you know, enlighten other people with, it's really cool to hear somebody.
I have a recommendation for next time. Since Heidi said that she just got done giving a talk on Kanban and Scrumban, that piqued my interest. Heidi, would you be up for maybe sharing that with us?
Absolutely, I would love it.
Heidi, let me tell you, Greg's in a room right now, and Greg may be able to take himself off of mute, but he's been asking a lot to learn about, and I work with Greg, that's why I'm saying that, about Kanban and Scrumban and Leanban, because there's been a lot of talk around our organization and particular teams to move to that, but not that, you know, that comfort level is just not there because it's not as familiar with a lot of people in our organization, so that'd be awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, this is Greg. I agree with that. I think that would be a great topic.
Oh, honestly, I would be happy to do it.
Fantastic. Good. Well, Jeff and I will contact you then afterwards. We'll shoot you an email just to get coordinated on the details. And then I think what Jeff said too, we're going to try to get some kind of a meetup going, so it's not just using the WebEx registration on its own is a little bit cumbersome. It's not quite as intuitive as some of the other meetup tools that are out there. So hopefully we'll be able to leverage that for this next one. But we'll reach out to you, Heidi, individually to set that up. And I just want to say I'm really thankful that we had a smaller group because it was easier for Jeff and I to manage. I was a little worried if we had 20, 30, 40, 50 people. that managing this was going to be a little bit harder, so this worked out really well for us. So.
Yeah, and I think maybe we get into a cadence where we tee up a speaker and pick a topic, and then maybe the next one we roll back into some lean coffee, because I really find it awesome to hear from other people, actually.
Yep, I agree. Well, hey, we are at 5 minutes till, so one of our things we like to do is give you a buffer so you can get to and from meetings. We know everybody's busy. So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up now. There will be a recording that we'll make available to you guys for joining, and Heidi will be talking to you about the next one. And Greg, again, thanks for joining. So see you all later.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.